Well, I think one of our best was Fraud the Outlaw. Another cute picture was one in Scotland.
Right.
Babes in Toyland.
Right.
And I like the Bohemian Girl. It's remarkable. The love that they have for us. It's amazing. Well, it was just the two characters that we felt the big guy knew less than the other guy, but wouldn't allow the little guy to know it. The slower we went, the less gags we'd have to work out, the less material. We wouldn't use so much film.
Hello, and welcome to another bonus episode of the Laurel and Hardy podcast. I know from your questions and emails that many of you are patiently waiting for new episodes of the podcast in which we focus on the films of Laurel and Hardy, and I promise we will get back to those just as soon as possible. Over the past few months, I've been working non-stop on trying to get my book on the silent films of Laurel and Hardy to somewhere near completion, which has meant the podcast has had to take something of a backseat. However, as you will have seen, we have had a number of new episodes released in the past few weeks or months, so we've been trying to keep you going in the meantime. Today's show is one that I think you'll really enjoy. It's the recording from our second Fraternally Yours discussion group, which was held a few weeks ago, and in which we aimed to talk about Stan and Ollie's third talkie short, Men of War, but we did in fact go on to talk about many other things besides, all to do with Laurel and Hardy, of course. The meeting was open to all patrons of the podcast that are signed up to the Plumtree tier. And as an added bonus, we were also joined by special guests Randy Skretvedt and Glenn Mitchell. I'm sure you'll find the discussion enjoyable and interesting in equal measure. And if you think you'd like to be involved in the next Fraternally Yours online meeting, all you have to do is join us on patreon.com and sign up to the Plumtree tier. You can find a link direct to that in the podcast show notes and also on my website, laurelandhardyfilms.com. And you never know which special guests may drop in to join us next time. So stay tuned for more podcast episodes to come, and I promise we will get around to the next film in focus, which will be They Go Boom very soon. So for now, on with today's bonus episode. Right, okay, yeah, I was going to say, welcome everybody to the second Fraternally Yours group meeting. It's great to have your company again. I suspect we may get one or two more joining because there was a few people that wanted to come. Hopefully they will join us. So today we're going to discuss Men of War. As I've just said a few minutes ago, I've done 2 episodes already on Men of War. So this really is for you to discuss. I want to hear your thoughts as much as possible. Tell us what you like about it. If you've got any questions, I know a couple of fellas on the meeting who are very, very knowledgeable about Laurel and Hardy, but I'm not going to tell you which two they are. I think you can work that one out. So this is a great opportunity, actually. If you do have any questions, then please feel free. If that's all right with Glenn and Randy, if you're happy to field a few questions about the film or anything else Laurel and Hardy related, that will be magic.
Yeah. I'm going to, speaking of magic and speaking of Brad's book, I'm going to run off and get my copy of it because I may need to cite specific dates, which I will not remember.
Good idea.
That's why I wrote it all down is I don't remember any of it, so I have to have it on paper. So I'll be right back.
All right, you take
in
your
just
time.
A jiffy.
Perfect. So so we're going to in fact what we'll do before we kick off. We have some of you who weren't with us last time. In fact, I think most of you weren't with us last time, actually, thinking about it. So that's quite nice. So for those who weren't here, if you'd like to just quickly introduce yourself to the group, and if you would like to share your earliest memories of Laurel and Hardy, because I know a lot of people who listen to the podcast love to hear about that. I certainly do. So that would be really nice. So just say what your name is, say where you're from, which part of the world you're joining us from, and what your earliest memories of Laurel and Hardy are would be lovely. And I'm going to start with Bob, please. Bob, if you could We know
Hi,
you're in Culver City.
Yes, Bob Morgan. I'm very lucky to live within 5 minutes of all the Laurel and Hardy stuff. There's a new Flickr Alley release coming out soon, Volume 3, The Silent Years. And I recently shot a bunch of photos for John Bankston, so there'll be then and now tours. Earliest memories of Laurel and Hardy were television, followed by Black Hawk Films, followed by serious collecting in Super 8 and 16 and lots of screenings. And I met Randy there many, many, many years ago. And the only thing more interesting than that is my late great wife had 15 minutes of fame on the TV show MASH. She played Rosie the nurse. So people seem more interested in that than in anything I've done. I'm also very involved in Buster Keaton, the world of Keaton. Yes. Nice to see you guys.
Bob, I still have the standard 8 prints of the Buster Keaton things that you got from Enrique J. Bouchard in Buenos Aires. Yeah. And I still have the dual 8 UMIG projector that you sold to me. That was the first time I ever wrote a check to anybody. I was 15 years old and had just gotten my first.
I was going to talk to you about that because it hasn't gone through yet.
I'm sorry. Well, that was 1976, I think. So it had a little time to clear the bank. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll get you a new one. All right.
Hi, nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Bob. That's lovely. Adrian, introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Adrian from the UK, born in Liverpool, but I live in London. So my earliest memories of Laurel and Hardy, like a lot of people of my generation, in the 70s and 80s, watching them on BBC Two, coming home from school and watching them. And I think in the early 80s, as in my sort of early teens, we got a video recorder, and that's when I started recording the films. Very lucky to have 2 wonderful parents who kind of encouraged me in everything I was interested in. And I remember we found, my dad saw an advert in the local paper for local Sons of the Desert branch, which was a Leave 'em Laughing tent in Liverpool. So we started going to that, and we did some wonderful things. I remember going to the 1984 International Convention and meeting Rosina Lawrence and Henry Brandon and a couple of Stan Laurel's cousins, Nancy Wardell. And it was just such a great experience going to Ulverston and meeting Bill Cuban there. So that kind of fostered an interest that I've kept ever since. So yeah, that's me.
Lovely. That's brilliant. Thank you, Adrian. That's lovely. Okay, well, let's go for Brad.
Hello, Brad.
I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Oh.
I was there 2 weeks ago.
I don't know if there's any other Canadians here. My introduction to Laurel and Hardy, I don't know how young I was at the time, 5 or 6. I know I couldn't read yet. And I walked into the living room, and my grandfather was watching. Well, I had never seen a silent movie before, so it just looked confusing to me. It's like, why don't these people talk? We see their lips move. And what are these words that come up? And my grandfather explained who they were, and I sat next to him, and he read the subtitles for me. Now, I missed the first few minutes, so I didn't know why these men had a goat with them.
Know which one that is.
But I can pinpoint the moment I became a fan. It was shortly after they get to the hotel room, and they're sitting next to each other, and Ollie says, my feet are killing me, and starts rubbing Stan's foot. And then Stan's enjoying it. And finally he says, scratch my back. Ollie finally realizes and pretty much throws the foot back on the floor. And I can remember I was laughing my head off. My young self found that so funny. And I call that the moment that I became a fan.
Yeah.
And it was actually many years later that I found out they did talkies because the channel that we were watching was only showing the silence.
Oh, right. That's interesting. I was working with that film just the other day with Angora Love. It's going to be released supposedly still on November 11th on a Blu-ray from Flickr Alley. And I did a commentary for it, and they are doing subtitles for the commentaries for people who are hearing impaired. Okay. So I had to do a proofreading on the commentary. So I was just looking at that film quite a bit the other day. Yeah. And it looks great now. They found a really nice source for it, so it looks very good.
Oh, great. And my grandfather is long gone now, of course. He managed to last until age 102.
Wow.
Yeah. But he could remember watching a lot of those films when they were in theater. So, anyway, I guess that's it for me.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Brad. Nice to meet you.
Thank you,
Thanks
Brad,
for joining us. That's great. Okay, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Fantastic. My name's Steve McCarty. I live just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. I'm sure, like a lot of people, my father sort of helped introduce me to Laurel and Hardy and actually all classic comedies growing up. They would always be playing in and around the house. I actually remember way back when getting a blank audio cassette and recording W.C. Fields' The Dentist on a cassette so I could play it back and just listen to it, which seems odd to tell people now, but just the beats and his delivery always struck me. And as a kid, I was actually more drawn to the Marx Brothers because the frantic pace, and they are always sticking it to those who were in control. And I think as a kid, that's very attractive, because the whole world's set up against you as a kid. And as I have gotten older, I way more relate to Laurel and Hardy because, I'll never shyster my way into becoming the dean of a college or running a sanitarium, but I'm definitely a husband who's had to do a honeydew list and had things go wrong, and way more relatable as I've gotten older. I know people say Laurel and Hardy are for kids in a lot of ways, and I had the actual exact opposite kind of reaction to them growing up. So I can credit my father introducing me to them. And of course, I can't remember when I discovered Patrick and this wonderful gift he gives us all the time, but it's become, I'm sure like everyone else's, an integral part of my life. All of this. So I'm really excited to be here and to share this time with you guys.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's lovely.
Could I just make one observation? I think this may be true for a lot of us. When we're kids and we watch Laurel and Hardy, we identify more with Stan. Yeah. As we get older, we shift our identification to Ollie.
I can't tell you, and I've never.
We love both of them, but our allegiances sort of shift over the years.
Yeah,
I've never admitted this to anybody before, and this is the truth. Having really dove back into Laurel and Hardy over the past number of years, I will be out somewhere. I'll be completely on my own and something will go wrong. I'll drop something, knock my head into something, and I will stop and do a take to a camera that's not there.
Right.
And I will pause for my laugh. And no one's there but me. And I've actually, boy, if you really dive into them, they've helped me navigate life, because things that are frustrating, things that you don't like, if you pause and wait for your laugh, you calm down and everything becomes way more manageable. Absolutely true.
I have a story about that. I got to meet Anita Garvin. I got to know Anita Garvin for many years. And I was so blessed by that because even as a little kid, of all the Laurel and Hardy supporting people, she was my favorite. And the reason she was my favorite was she was the one who underplayed. Everybody else was very Finlayson and Charles Middleton and Mae Bush and Walter Long were very theatrical and very explosive. And Anita Garvin was the one who knew, like Gary Cooper, all you had to do was think something and it registered on camera. And I thought she was so great in that she got big laughs by minimizing it. Well, anyway, I got to meet her in 1979. We became very good friends. Later on, she was living at the Motion Picture Country Home. And I went, another friend of ours, a Sons of the Desert guy named Steve Randisi, we went up to see her at the Motion Picture Home. And we were having lunch, and she was in the middle of telling a story, and a waitress dropped some dishes very noisily on the floor with a crash. And without missing a beat, Anita said, "Wait for your laugh, honey." And then she went right into her story. And I thought, who else would say that but someone who had been in slapstick comedies back in the 20s? Wait for you. When there's a dish crash, she said, "Wait for your laugh, honey." So you were talking about waiting for your laugh. So there we go.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Steve. That's fantastic. And looking at everybody's reaction, I think we all do that. That's not strange. I think we all do that. We all take to the camera that's not even there, and then with the old "'twas ever thus." We've got one gentleman just joined us. It says iPhone. Would you like?
Oh,
yeah.
Yep. Sorry, that's me. It's Nick. It's Nick Canupius, Patrick. We've
Nice.
corresponded before. I'm
Yes.
sorry that I'm referred to as iPhone. Well, unlike the rest of you, I suspect I'm actually in the good old UK. So I'm on the London Surrey borders.
Okay.
And very nice to meet you all. Patrick, I really love your work, so many congratulations. And Randy, I feel that I've known you for decades because I've got, well, in fact, I'm holding here now your current book.
Yes.
But,
Got it too.
which I'm still trying to finish. But I've got some earlier editions as well in my bookcase. I'm looking at it now. So I have always been, as long as I can remember, actually, a Laurel and Hardy fan. And I think it was the early 70s, there was in England a program called something like the Golden Age of Comedy. And it was lots of clips of silent films which were compiled together. And that was on a Saturday morning. So I used to watch those, and the Laurel and Hardy ones always stood out. And then as I started watching them, more and more of the more elderly members of my extended family would say to me, "Oh, we went to go and see Laurel and Hardy in the 1950s in the theatre in England. They actually saw the shows, or we saw them in the cinema in the early 60s." And then gradually throughout the 1970s and 1980s in England, they started to show the sound shorts. And so I watched more and more of those. And then in the 90s, I joined one of the Sons of the Deserts in Kent, in England. I think it was called the Helpmates Tent. One of the highlights of that was in about 1991. We had a convention at a place called Leeds Castle, which was an incredible event, actually. And I met Lois Laurel there, and I met Charlie Hall's nephew. I can't remember his name.
Uncle.
It was one of the highlights of my life, actually, that event. And we sang, "We Are the Sons of the Desert," and they had the dancers doing the Honolulu baby dancing. It was also filmed, except my only copy is on VHS. So, and I don't have a VHS player anymore. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But actually, Randy, one thing you said just now, which I do disagree with. In my case, as a child, I always identified more with Ollie. Slapstick humor. And the older that I've become, actually, I identify more with Stan's genius, because you understand a lot more about what he contributed to the films, and also the fact that he was overwhelmed by. So I can't remember if it's in your book or if it was one of the contributors to the podcast, but someone said that with Stan, when he starts crying, it's because he's overwhelmed by a situation. And I think that is true, actually. And as an adult, you're more likely to become overwhelmed by a situation than you are as a child. And so I think I identify more with Stan now than I did with Ollie. I have 4 kids, and from the moment they were born, they've been indoctrinated into Laurel. and the reason for that is that you'd have to entertain them somehow. So are you going to sit and put Barney the dinosaur or Peppa Pig or one of these dreadful cartoons that you watch these days, or are you going to put Laurel and Hardy on, which at least you can enjoy as well? And that whenever I've got a daughter who's 30, she's actually an actress. Whenever she comes over to me, she just wants to watch Laurel and Hardy on TV. So we put a DVD on and watch it. So it's great to meet you all. It's wonderful to listen to the podcasts. And one day, hopefully before I die, I might finish your book, Randy.
Well, I certainly hope you do too. I have other books too, which I hope you'll read after you finish that one.
I don't know if I'll be alive long enough to read them.
Oh, I hope so. I'm starting work on Scripts Volume 3 right now.
That actually is the next thing I'm going to buy. Yeah, they're terrific, the scripts.
I've got Scripts Volume 1 and 2 that are out now, and I'm starting on number 3, which will have a script for Hurley, Stan, and Wren from 1915.
Really?
vaudeville script for The Nutty Burglars.
Oh, wow.
And what else? I have the script for Live Bait, which was a script Stan wrote for a short that never got finished. There's The Hardy Family, which was the script Roach wrote when Stan was booted from the studio after Bonnie Scotland. So there are some nice unfilmed things, as well as some wonderful things that were filmed, but the scripts are very different from the film. So I'm working on that now.
Oh, that'd be really good. Look forward to reading that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So that's all the newcomers. Glenn, would you like to just say hello to the group?
Hello, group.
And just remind me, because I remember when we first spoke on the first episode that you were on with me, we did all your sort of backstory, which is really fascinating. But just remind me again, what was your very first memory of Laurel and Hardy?
The very first definite memory I have of them was seeing a chump at Oxford on TV when I was, I think, 4 years old. But I did eventually trace the transmission date of this, and it was 1963. So I was still 4, so I was 5 towards the end of the year. And I remember seeing this, and the thing that remained in my memory was the business in the maze. And specifically the expression dizzy spells. Now, for some unknown reason, to my 4-year-old self, this sounded like a very American expression. It isn't, but somehow it sounded like it to me. Yeah. And I remember telling Jack McCabe that many years later. He laughed, but yeah. So yes, dizzy spells at the age of 4. That was the earliest definite memory I have of seeing Laurel and Hardy.
There it is, Glenn, right there.
Oh, good heavens! That's official.
Easter Monday, 15th of April. Bless you.
How about that? Oh no, we know. I did have a note of it somewhere. I couldn't remember exactly when in the year. So
they do make the joke about he's a dizzy dean, and that refers to an American baseball player.
Oh, yes.
There was a baseball pitcher in the late 30s named Dizzy Dean, and he had a brother named Daffy Dean. And if any of you are Abbott and Costello fans, they are also usually referenced at the beginning of Who's On First. But that's what that joke is. Sometimes it's something that may not translate well outside of the USA.
No, and somewhat topical, of course. And they occasionally did topical gags that are mostly lost on today's viewers, but here and there. Technocracy, for example. Reference to that, but which I think was in vogue for about 3 months or something, wasn't it, in 1933? Something like that.
What is that? Technocracy? What's that?
It was a political economic theory that somebody came up with. This is the worst of the Depression, but I think Randy knows more about this than I do.
I think we're going through it now, where the people who control the high tech things are running the world.
Yeah,
that was it. Yes, they believed that economic and social progress was in the hands of technology.
It's mentioned by Spanky McFarland in the Our Gang Short Kid from Borneo, if you know that film. The wild man is there eating wieners out of the refrigerator, and Spanky says, "What do you think about technocracy?" Which you wouldn't expect a 4-year-old child to ask, you know.
Anyway. Was it Robert?
My mom says I'm spoiled.
There's also a short, I forget who's in it, but it's called Techno Crazy. It was a short subject from about 1933.
Right. And
but it's mentioned in Me and My Pal, the Laurel and Hardy reference that I know of.
I was thinking, what was it? Was it Robert Benchley who wrote Your Technocracy and Mine?
Could be. That sounds like something he would write.
Yeah.
Or either that or Colonel Stoopnagel.
Oh, yes.
Stoopnagel and Bud. I think he may have done that.
It may have been him, yeah.
There was another whimsical radio performer. His real name was Franklin Chase Taylor. And he only made a handful of films, but they're very funny.
Yeah, I think it was him, actually. Yeah, I couldn't remember, but the title rang bells. But yes, however, this is a serious digression. I shouldn't have said technocracy.
I always love digressions.
Yeah, but anyway. So I was in front of the TV looking at Chump at Oxford in 63. And the reason for that, it goes back to what others have said about their fathers who enjoyed the films when they were new. And my dad was a kid in the 20s and 30s, and he saw them at the time. Actually, he and his elder sister, the first one they saw was Hats Off.
Oh, my.
I know. And it was genuine. because they were able to describe it to me before we had anything like a reconstruction of it. In
Wow.
fact, my late aunt said to me, "Oh, the first film I ever saw with Laurel and Hardy, they were working as dishwashers and got fired, got the sack." And this didn't match anything I knew about from any of the films. And of course, I subsequently learned that that was how Hats Off opened.
Oh.
But they remembered other bits too. But anyway, it was mostly my dad. So it's largely through his influence that I was watching it in the first place. And we always had film in the house. Before my time, it was 9.5, and by the 60s, it was 8mm. My dad had a couple of Laurel and Hardys on there. And when I started to become more acquisitive, shall we say, I began to add to that 8mm collection. And it went on past 8mm, back to 9.5, and into 16mm, and so on. And I became what known as a collector, and who was writing about these things. And the rest of it you probably know. But that's largely it. Me and my 4-year-old dizzy spells. Still get them.
My dad always had, when I was little, we had a projector. And I do remember he had, this was probably actually the very first time I remember seeing Laurel and Hardy, a little 8mm silent film called Wings Away. Which now I know
Walton
to
films.
be, it was Flying Juices. Yeah, Walton films. It was the last bit of, there's a plane sequence from Flying Juices. But I remember probably when I was about 5 or 6, seeing this and just being fascinated by who they were, and then seeing them on TV. But yeah, that's probably my earliest actual memory, was seeing Wings Away, the airplane sequence.
Randy and Glenn, I remember when you were doing a thing with us in London, the Helpmates thing, you both came on and you both told the story that you both showed them at your school, did you not?
Yes, well, I did.
Showed the
Showed
film.
our what?
School. You showed the films projected at your local school. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell my Laurel and Hardy loss of virginity? Okay. I loved old movies from the time I had conscious thought, I think. And I live in Orange County, California. I live about 25 miles southeast of Culver City. So not quite in Los Angeles. But we got the Los Angeles area television stations. And we had one channel, Channel 9, that seemed to have all the great old movies. And so I would watch Charlie Chan and Shirley Temple. And I loved the Universal horror movies. I was on track to becoming another Universal monster fanboy before I discovered Laurel and Hardy. And I also liked the Three Stooges. And my mother was a little concerned about that because of all the slapping and head clonking and all of that. And she said, why don't you try to find something with Laurel and Hardy? They're kind of like the Three Stooges, but they're not as violent. And I said, oh, okay. And I was able to read when I was 4 years old. And one magic week, I think it was in the summer of 1964, Channel 9 ran The Golden Age of Comedy, which was the Robert Youngson film from 1958. Now, they had a thing called the $1 Million Movie, and they would run the same movie every night for a solid week. And I must have caught it on Sunday and then seen it every night for the rest of the week because I was just absolutely transfixed. Of course, it has some Max Sennett comedians and Harry Langdon and other people as well, but predominantly Laurel and Hardy. And I fell in love with that world. Everything was so shiny and new because these were fairly new communities in the late 20s. And I loved the cars. I loved the clothes. But, I remember never having laughed so much in my life as I did at Laurel and Hardy. And then not too long after that, they showed Swiss Miss, which was the first talkie Laurel and Hardy that I saw. And I liked that a lot. And then not too long after that, they began running the 2-reel talkie shorts at 7 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'd see them when I was getting ready for school, and I'd see them coming home from school. And of course, there aren't that many films in the package, so it didn't take long before I had seen a significant chunk of the Laurel and Hardy films. And when I was about, it would have been when I was 9 years old, in 4th grade, I discovered in the back of a magazine an ad for Black Hawk Films. And said, real Laurel and Hardy movies, only $12.95. And I went, what? I already had a little battery-operated standard 8 projector, a Kragston, and I had a 25-foot excerpt from Flying Elephants called Caveman. And it was terrible. It had all these scratches printed in it. It looked like they were going through prison bars. It was so bad.
That would have been Atlas or Carnival, wouldn't it?
Carnival films also, yeah.
Yeah.
But
One of
so in April of '68, I got my first real Laurel and Hardy film, which for $9.98 was a used print of Big Business, complete from the A negative. I still have it. Yeah, yes, it has the big close up of Finlayson, not the profile one from the B negative.
Yeah.
And so yes, by the end of the year, I had a pretty good collection of Laurel and Hardy silents. And yes, in fourth grade, I gave my first Laurel and Hardy show. And by the time I was 13 or 14, I had joined the Sons of the Desert, the Way Out West tent, and gotten to meet Marvin Hatley and all sorts of Laurel and Hardy people, and began doing interviews, and the rest is history. But anyway, started watching Laurel and Hardy when I was probably not quite yet. I was probably 5 years old. And it was the golden age of comedy was my first introduction to them, and I suspect it was for a lot of people too of my generation.
Absolutely the same here, because the BBC used to show those Robert Youngson compilations just about every holiday.
Yeah.
Christmas, all those things. They had the golden age of comedy when comedy was king, Days of Thrills and Laughter, which of course is a bit lighter on Laurel and Hardy, but they had those, and that was one of the big intros I had to this whole silent comedy thing. And it was all very new to me as a small child. I had not seen these. And so the Youngson films, yes, were very important. And we had some other things. There was a TV series here called Mad Movies, which Bob Monkhouse fronted. And that, again, was a very good beginner's course in
I
silent.
remember that one as well, on Saturday mornings. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very well remembered. And I don't think that many of them exist, and some of them only exist in fragments, but there's things around of them. But they were showing things. They weren't saying how rare some of them were, though. So for that reason, I didn't realize there was anything more special in seeing Lloyd Hamilton or Lane than there was in some of the more familiar things. And it was only later I discovered how scarce they were, but they were running them side by side and not distinguishing them between them in terms of rarity. So it was all part of the same package to me. And of course, there weren't as many as the Harry Langdons around in those days either. It's improved much since then. But you'd see these rare things, and so they just wouldn't tell you how rare they were. But anyway, the main thing was that it was a wonderful crash course for a kid at that. There was a lot of it on TV in those days. I think it helped a lot that the color TV really hadn't come in, so they weren't afraid of showing black and white material.
Of course.
So there's a lot more on. I mean, the Marx Brothers were on a lot as well. And
Yes.
his brother who pointed.
I'm surprised that they showed the silence in England on television, because aside from the Youngson films, those really have never been shown. And I'm wondering if now, with these beautiful restorations that Lobster Films is doing, that all have new music tracks and they look terrific, even the ones going back to the earliest ones like Duck Soup, they all look just spectacular now. So they're much more watchable and much funnier, because you don't have to strain to figure out what you're looking at because of a bad print. I'm wondering if those might finally get some television distribution, because I think they're a lot more viable now.
Well, they are. I mean, I should explain that they didn't show the silence complete on TV over here at the time.
No.
That didn't start to happen until the 80s. But in more recent years, there's an archive channel called Talking Pictures TV, which showed a lot of the Laurel and Hardy sound shorts, some of the features, and a small selection of the silence complete. And that's the first time since the 80s that any of those have been on. And unfortunately, they're not. Obviously, they couldn't have been the most recent restorations, and so I'm hoping, yes, now these new copies are about, there will be some interest, and they'll come back on in the restorations. I do hope so.
There was a series in the States in the 80s. I think Richard Feiner put it together, called Laurel and Hardy Laugh Tunes, and those were segments of the silence with new soundtracks. I never really have seen much of those, so I don't know what the distribution was on those, but I know they weren't shown.
Yeah, they weren't shown here because the rights situation was different. So they never made it over here. Although Finer's TV prints of the complete two-reelers did have a run for a while in the 80s, early to mid-80s, I think. The commercial TV stations had them. So the ones with the Horace Lapp piano tracks, they made it here for a while. But again, it was quite a belated thing. It didn't happen until 83 or something, 84. But otherwise, the Laurel and Hardy sound shorts and roach features were for decades in more or less continuous repertory over here. I mean, the BBC had them for a long time.
But they've just stopped now. I don't remember the last time I saw a Laurel and Hardy short on any commercial TV in the UK.
This is my year. 2009 was the last time BBC showed it.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. And what we've got now is a whole load of kids who've come up since not knowing them. It used to be that each generation grew up knowing Laurel and Hardy, and now they don't.
I'm going to pass back to Patrick because I don't want to get on with the thing, but I will want to say this. I don't think TV is going to be TV as we know it in 10 years' time. It just won't be TV. No. You know, it's just not going to be there. We'll have a glass screen in our room, but everything's watching live, or you're not watching live. You don't watch live anymore. It's a changing world. It's gone.
It's very sad to not have that communal experience.
Yes.
Because in the States, when I was growing up, we had basically 3 networks.
Yeah, we had 3.
And we were lucky in Los Angeles to also have 4 independent stations. So we had 7 channels. Yeah, I remember in elementary school, we would all talk about having watched the same Lucy show or something like that. You know, we all saw it, you know. Or we saw it, Ed Sullivan, the Ed Sullivan Show, which most people now only know because the Beatles were on it. But it was a terrific education for kids because it was at that period where the old entertainers were still performing. So you had Jack Benny and Jimmy Durante and Sophie Tucker and all these people had been around since the 20s, and they were colliding with the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and the Doors, but it was something for everybody for an hour every Sunday. And so you were exposed, maybe you were sitting around waiting for the Rolling Stones to show up, but you also heard some Broadway songs while waiting for them. And so you got that education. And so, you know, we as kids, we knew old songs from the 20s. They were still in the atmosphere. And so even if something was 50 years old at the time in the 60s, it still wasn't foreign to us. And, you know, it's very sad that kids don't have that breadth of knowledge now. It's especially with the rise of everything being on their phone and being so self-absorbed. You know, they don't get that education of things beyond their immediate little comfort zone.
You know, Randy, I've got
it's quite true.
Grandchildren ranging age from 8 to 4. And if I were to say CBS, ABC, NBC, the 3 big networks here, no idea what I'm talking about. Every one of them can navigate YouTube. But they all navigate YouTube. They know exactly what they want to watch and what they want to see. So it's really on us to, and for my part, you know, for my birthday every year, we do a little movie, you know, I'll do shorts. My grandsons, their birthday this year is Superman themed because I made them watch the Max and Dave Fleischer 1940s Superman shorts, and those are their favorites. They prefer those, and then we'll watch a cartoon, and then we'll watch a Laurel and Hardy short for my birthday. So they are being exposed. No, it's not going to be this giant thing anymore. I think it's going to be little pockets like that.
The great thing is that old movies are by far more readily available now than ever. You know, I mean, we can buy beautiful copies of things very inexpensively now, as opposed to Glenn and some of us others who may have been Super 8 collectors back in the 70s and had to pay $80 in $1976 for a Laurel and Hardy feature. Wow. And now you can get the entire Roach-owned oeuvre for $40. Looking better than our Super 8 prints did. But the thing is, now kids are not going to just bump into these things like we did. We would just stumble upon them. You know, I remember stumbling across Citizen Kane one rainy Sunday afternoon when I was 11 and just being transfixed. You know, what is this? I've never seen a movie that looked like this before. And so that's how I fell in love with Citizen Kane. I just happened to stumble onto it. And I don't know that that's going to happen for kids now. But if you can drive them to clicking on it at YouTube, then it's there.
I'm gonna jump in because
now Menowar.
We're 40. Yes. 46 and we've only just done the introductions, which is fine. I love it. It's fun. We could do this all night. We're generally here to talk about Men of War, which is great. Tony and John, we did do introductions last time, but I just want to point out, if anybody wants to hear John's introduction, just listen to the last podcast on Perfect Day, because John introduced himself there. Tony did the same, but for those of you who aren't aware, the background that Tony is in, Tony, tell them where you are, would you?
I live in Ulverston, in Cumbria. I live at number 3 Argyle Street.
Good.
Wow.
I'm supposed to give my complete address.
No, the only reason Tony lives in the house in which Stan Laurel was born.
Wow.
So he's in a very special house.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
Is it cold in
Very
that house,
special
Tony? Because you look very well wrapped up.
Well, I've dashed in from being out, so I thought, I haven't got time to do it. I thought I'll just log on.
Bless you,
So,
bless you.
yeah.
Well, you've got the perfect time now. 'Cause what we did last time, and what we're going to do this time, is we're going to watch a little bit of Men of War. I'm going to share the screen so you can all sit and watch together. It's not the full film. I've condensed it. The good thing about editing from back in 1920 is very rough editing, so my edit just seamlessly cuts in with the original edit, so it's fine. So I've just tried to pick out some highlights whilst also giving us the main sort of thrust of the movie. It's just to refresh people's memory, so we've got a little bit to talk about when we come back to it. So last time I got a perfect day down to 8 minutes, which was hard. This one runs to about 10. So if you don't want to watch it, by all means, go and get yourself a cup of tea. Tony, take your hat and scarf off. But I'm gonna share screen now. Have a little watch. Enjoy a bit of Men of War, and then when we come back, we'll get some thoughts and some discussion points on that, if that is okay with everybody. There we go. There we go. Sacrilege, I know, to cut down a film like that is awful, but there we go. I did it as sensitively as possible.
All right. May I share my exciting news about Men of War?
Please do. Please do.
All right. Well, November 11th is the scheduled release date for 2 Laurel and Hardy Blu-ray releases in the U.S., but they are both region-free, so even though you may have to buy them from U.S. sources, you'll be able to run them on your U.K. players. One is the 1929 Year 3 from Lobster Films, which will not only finish up the 1929 Silence, but also includes silent and sound versions of Unaccustomed as We Are, silent version of Birthmarks, and just for good measure, They Go Boom and The Hooskow, and a couple of other nice rarities that you probably have not seen before. So that's coming out. And then from Kit Parker Films, Definitive Restorations 2, which is talkie shorts, and which will include Perfect Day, but also Men of War. Now, Jeff Joseph, who's been overseeing the restoration of these things, has been working on Men of War for 4 years. These films have to be pieced together from whatever source all over the world. They have been loved to death. And so at this late date, it's very hard to find good condition footage on these things. But he was able to find a print that was made for theaters that had the sound on disc, which means that there's much more picture area. You may notice in what we saw, there was more room on the right, and things tended to be cut off on the left. The two shots of Stan and Ollie during the early scene, they were hugging up against the left side of the frame, but there was room on the right. Well, that's because they really hadn't thought about allowing extra space for the soundtrack, which was going to be optically printed on the actual print. Well, there were prints where that full picture area existed, and thank God there was still one in good shape, and Jeff Joseph was able to use that. I don't know if the sound source is from discs or what, but it sounds great. It looks terrific. It's beautifully steady. The picture image is absolutely pristine. You will never have seen Men of War looking this beautiful. And there is something that has been missing from the soundtrack ever since at least the early 40s, and it's proven that it was there from the cutting continuities. In the cutting continuities, it gives a specific moment. You remember at the very beginning, and this footage was missing for a long time, there's a band playing in the park, and this was missing from prints for many, many years. The one where they had the Busybodies music of all things at the opening titles with the buzzsaw of all films to pirate music from. They had to take Busybodies, which has that sound effect on it. Well, anyway, there are shots of this band playing in the park. Well, that comes into play near the end of the film, and the cutting continuities specify that during the scene when everybody's starting to fight in the canoes, we hear Stars and Stripes Forever, which is a march by John Philip Sousa. And that's the one that Laurel and Hardy sing in Come Clean when they're trying to, when Mae Bush turns the radio on. Da, 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 da. Americans know it. I don't know if people in the UK know it that well. But anyway, it's a rousing patriotic march. And it was used as underscoring during that whole scene where everybody's throwing the cushions at each other and getting dunked in the water. Well, fortunately, there was a 1929 recording of it done by the John Philip Sousa Orchestra. It was done for radio, but I had a copy of it and Ray Faiola had a copy of it. So it's the right sonic characteristic. It sounds like a 1929 recording. It's nice and clean and crisp, but it does sound like 1929 fidelity. So we put that in, and sure enough, it works so that right at the end title is when it finishes. So it's about 3 minutes of music, and there is a specific point in the cutting continuity where it says it starts here. So we started our recording of it here, and it may not be the exact same recording that was used in Men of War back in 1929, but it's the closest we will have. It's a 1929 recording. And it adds a lot to that sequence because I think, ironically, here it's Laurel and Hardy's only their third talkie. And I think the two best sequences are the first two, which are dialogue driven.
Yeah.
And I think that the third sequence doesn't quite come off. You know, they had gotten into this rut, really, where they thought that every film had to end with a massive battle. And, you know, we've had pies, we've had rocks, we've had mud, we've torn trousers, we've ripped up cars. What else can we do? Oh, well, we haven't done anything with water yet, really. So except for the throwing water at each other in Angora Love. Yeah. So, you know, but this and the rice in Huskow are really sort of the last examples of that type of finish in a Laurel and Hardy film. And I don't think this one entirely comes off, but it actually comes off better when the music's on it. Right. So people are going to be surprised at that, and they're going to say, what did they do adding that music? We've never had that before. Well, fortunately, we have the cutting continuity, and it is reproduced in the photo galleries. I have been working on photo galleries, commentaries, and booklet notes almost nonstop since October of 2018 for these Blu-ray projects. And finally, they're done for a while, so I can get to doing some house cleaning. My house looks like Helpmates right now.
Cool.
No liquor bottles, but everything else. Yeah. But anyway, so we have the cutting continuity, and we're reproducing the page that shows where it was supposed to be, so we can say, see, this was in it in 1929, even though somehow that sound element dropped out when Film Classics made their prints in 1943, and they also lost the opening footage and the music over the main titles. So it's amazing. Another thing that's going to be in Definitive Volume 2, you'll get to have another fine mess with two soundtracks. One, the soundtrack as we know it with the Leroy Shield music, but also they found the pre-mix elements, the nitrate optical soundtrack in 35 millimeter. Where this has been hiding for 95 years, I don't know, but they've got the actual, you know, the first generation sound, and it's great because you can hear birds and dogs barking in the background and all sorts of things that you wouldn't hear in the mixed version. So you'll get to have that soundtrack as well. It doesn't have the music, but it's fascinating. So that's another extra goodie that will be on Definitive Volume 2. But anyway, you will finally get to see and hear Men of War in the most beautiful looking and sounding copy that you will ever have seen it in. I guarantee you. So that's coming in mid-November.
Fantastic.
I think part of that with the disappearing music, I think there were some instances when Film Classics, when they put them out, only had work print elements that didn't have incidental music. I mean, an example of that is Reel 2 of Below Zero. We didn't hear the incidental music on that for decades.
My Super 8 print from Blackhawk did not have music, and I like it better that way.
Actually, it works better silent.
I think it works better with no music because that is a very stark film, and it doesn't need to be jollied up with nice, happy, peppy music in the background. I like it better with no music.
It's true, and given the situation too, the rather bleak setting, it's far better his rather arid soundtrack. It doesn't need something jolly playing; it detracts from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was part of it. They had work print elements only on certain of the films, certain with soundtracks. And what is really weird though, the old BBC television print of Men of War was a film classics copy with those titles, but it did have that opening bandstand footage.
Oh,
Yeah, it was there, and the odd thing they did with it to get rid of the film classics imposition of busybodies, it was also the end title as well. There's a on the end as well. They ditched all that, and I think this was actually done by our late friend David Wyatt, who was a BBC. He was a BBC television film editor. I think David actually did this, and made up a complete separate mag soundtrack to show with the picture element. And he lifted a complete rendering of the Cuckoo theme to go over the titles.
wow.
He borrowed the bit of the recording of Here We Go, I think, from the main titles of Any Old Port, which he put on at the beginning of the soda fountain sequence. And the rest of it was modern day library music, which kind of worked with it. Oddly enough, most of it was the same tune that Walton Films used on a compilation of theirs called Laurel and Hardy's Musical Moments, done at around the same time. So
I have
there's a
that.
collection. Yeah, it's quite a nice little reel. There are two versions of it actually, but
Yes, I have both, and I cut them together. So I have a 600 foot. It was 200 feet originally. So I think I have about a 350 foot version of it. Yeah,
I could never do that because I have the first version on standard 8 and the second version on Super 8. They don't cut together.
No, I got the first version on Super 8. I was in London a grand total of 4 days when I was 17, and I was amazed that they actually had walk-in stores selling Super 8 movies.
Yeah.
And the weird thing was they had pornography right next to Tom and Jerry cartoons. Oh, that was interesting for a 17-year-old. Oh my goodness. No. I want the Tom and Jerry, not that. No, thank you. So I got Tom and Jerry, 3 Tom and Jerry cartoons. I got the musical moments, and I got a Roadrunner cartoon from Technofilm.
Is that all?
Oh, those Italian kids,
yeah. But then I later got Bugs Bunny Gets the Boyd, and that was in English. So I was afraid. The reason I got a Roadrunner cartoon was, well, if these are in Italian, there's no speech in a Roadrunner cartoon, so I won't have Italian dubbing. So I was playing it safe.
In Italian.
I have a question, Patrick, if we're allowed to go slightly off of Men of War, but sticking to Laurel and Hardy.
Of course.
We have two experts here.
Yeah. Take your time.
So I'm real involved in the world of Buster Keaton, and we're lucky now of his 10 silent films, 5 or 6 of them. We have versions with the European version was completely alternate takes, completely different. Just, not... I guess it's like the Beatles, where we like having 10 different versions. I know with Laurel and Hardy, there are a lot of A and B camera where it's 6 feet apart.
Right.
Are there Laurel and Hardy films where there are versions with completely alternate takes?
Evidently, Angora Love is like that. And I think that what exists in decent quality is the B negative, which would be, now that was everything except North America. And so I would think there would be more prints and more sources of the B negative, even though that was thought to be the secondary negative, because it went to more places around the world. But I think those are in many cases different performances, as they are with the Buster Keaton, like in Steamboat Bill Jr., the scene where he's trying on the different hats. Entirely different from the one that we know. And I know there's somewhere on YouTube where they run them side by side, so you can see the difference.
But I mean, are there Laurel and Hardy where you can see different takes?
From what I know, and Glenn may know more than I do, because I'm not in the trenches working with the actual film, but I think usually it's the same performance shot from a different angle. As you can see, unfortunately, in Your Darn Tootin', I remember as a kid, my Blackhawk print in the scene where Ollie stomps on the hats and Stan picks up his, thinking that his hat has been crushed. In my print that I had in 1975, and unfortunately got stolen from me, Stan looked right into the camera and started crying. Then he realized and smiled and then switched hats with Ollie. But he looked right into the camera. What only seems to survive now is the other camera, and so he's looking off to the side now, and it doesn't have the same impact. And I wish they could have found it. I'm sure there's a 16 millimeter Blackhawk print out there somewhere that has that other take, but that appears to be the same performance, just from a different camera perspective. And I think that's usually what happens. But I understand that Angora Love is almost exclusively from a B negative, so could well be different actual takes from what we had in the A. So
Thanks.
You could argue
to have anything.
The foreign versions are probably they're often very different, aren't they? Some of the takes, because obviously they're recorded in phonetic languages. So
the foreign language,
From they're almost entirely different films, aren't they?
What's really interesting is to see the French, the Spanish blotto, where they're laughing, and it's an entirely new performance.
Yeah,
and you realize what great actors they were, because it's not the performance that you see in the English language version, but it's every bit as authentic.
Yeah,
and I mean, they had to be a whole new one because they don't have Anita Garvin in back of them. They've got Jermaine Deniel or whoever it was as Mrs. Laurel.
Yeah.
So you get to see two performances of that scene, and you marvel at how authentically and how real that seems when they have to gear up and do it all over again.
I'm always amazed by that.
Now you got to get the energy and psych yourself up to do that scene again.
I think that's one of the things that really is underestimated, though, isn't it, with Laurel and Hardy, how good they actually were as actors. I mean, Ollie is a superb comic actor, and the excerpts that we just saw, I think, really emphasize that, because it obviously we know his mannerisms, the twiddling of the tie and little gestures with his hands, but in the excerpts we just saw, there was an awful lot of use of his hands to emphasize situations, and your attention is drawn to him and what he's saying because of his hand gestures, in the way that populist politicians or other leaders use their hands a lot to convey what they're saying in a speech. Ollie does that a lot in some of the films, and the excerpts that we just saw, I don't think I've seen him do it more so than in those excerpts. And if you go back to them, just see how many times he expresses himself and emphasizes what he's trying to say by using his hands. And I hadn't noticed it before, actually.
And also, for someone who was not a stage actor, because Oliver Hardy, he'd done a little vaudeville in a singing quartet, but he was really not an actor who went out and spoke lines. That he did not have the stage experience as Stan did. Maybe because of that, he's a little bit better film actor, because he always knew how to scale it down, whereas Stan is a little broader.
I think that's right. I think that's right. I mean, in England, we certainly have a number of comedians who are brilliant, but there's also a number of very, very good comic actors who aren't necessarily comedians. So I don't know whether you're familiar with them in America, but there used to be a comedy act in England called the Two Ronnies.
Yes.
One was a chap called Ronnie Corbett, who was, I think, a very funny comedian, and the other was someone called Ronnie Barker, who wasn't really a comedian, but was an incredibly good comic actor. And they always reminded me a little bit of Laurel and Hardy, because I see Ollie as being the Ronnie Barker figure, who's a brilliant actor and very funny, but not a natural comedian, whereas Ronnie Corbett and Stan, I think, are natural comedians.
And for someone who had been primarily a silent film actor, Ollie has a wonderfully musical and expressive speaking voice.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you listen to his soliloquy to himself in the mirror at the start of Helpmates, that is beautifully measured, and the emphasis and the just the music that he gives to each syllable is just beautiful to listen to.
I agree with you completely.
And I may be the only person who holds this opinion, but I think that Spencer Tracy and Oliver Hardy were the two finest film actors of their generation.
I don't know.
I really do.
Spencer
I think
Tracy's
he's he is so genuine, even with the things like looking into the camera and the tie twiddle and all that sort of thing. But I mean, being that character. I mean, I love the moment in Saps at Sea after Finlayson has left, and they're just sitting and talking about, we don't have to go out into the ocean and get sea air. They're so relaxed and comfortable in those characters. You almost feel like the camera it was on between takes.
Yeah.
And that's what actors always aspire to, not seeming like they're acting. Well, Laurel and Hardy really achieved that.
And I think that was growing up. That was one thing that really appealed to me about them. I couldn't imagine them not being those characters. They just seem so warm and so genuine and so natural. That's kind of who you believe them to be. Oliver Hardy was great at the comedy of embarrassment, and I think you see that in Men of War in the opening sequence with the knickers. He just plays that brilliantly, and there's nothing overstated about his performance. It's it's all little nuances, isn't it?
There was a great quote from Spencer Tracy, which I love, and he was once asked about acting. He said, "Acting's the easiest thing in the world, but never get caught doing it."
He also said, once you can fake sincerity, you've got it made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Randy, do you think part of what you just said about Laurel and Hardy might be because from everything we read, they did a minimum of rehearsal, that they would walk through what they were going to do, and then they often filmed the first or second take.
It's interesting that the Stan Laurel method of filming is diametrically opposed to the Charlie Chaplin method of filming.
Yes.
Charlie Chaplin is, I will demonstrate to you exactly how I want you to perform this. Now do this just as I do, and we'll do 112 takes until you do it just as I do. He's almost like William Wyler. William Wyler was famous for not being able to articulate to actors what he wanted. He would just say, just do it better. Drove actors crazy. But Stan, and of course we have Henry Brandon's great story about Babes in Toyland, where he was really his first film. He had just turned 22 years old, and it's his first day with Laurel and Hardy, and Stan looks at the script and says, well, and throws it away and says, now, babe, you say this, and you say that, and Henry, you say this, and then I'll say that. Okay, let's shoot it. And Henry said, aren't we going to rehearse? And Stan said, do you want to spoil it? And Anita Garvin and Dorothy Granger confirmed this too, that they liked, there was always a freshness to doing it the first time. So that's why they tried to capture that on film, the rehearsal, basically doing the rehearsal on film. And that's another thing that's amazing about these early talkies. If you look at, even unaccustomed as we are, they are ad-libbing a lot of their dialogue. Maybe not the opening scene about Mrs. Kennedy, but when they're talking with Mae Bush and she starts to complain about, these bums that he's bringing in, and she starts talking in rhythm with the record and they're arguing, they're coming up with that dialogue on the spot. If you look at the scripts, the only dialogue that there is anything that is of absolute key importance, and everything else is just, what the gist of the scene is, you say it in your own words. And so, they're basically writing the script as they're performing it. And to be doing that in your first few talkies, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
That they were able to be that at ease in front of the camera and the microphone at that early stage.
Yeah. The one common element, I think, between the Chaplin and Laurel methods, though, was what Chaplin used to say to his cast, which was, remember, they're peeking at you.
and that now I won't be self-conscious.
Yeah, but it's back to the don't overplay, think the scene and it'll come over. It was the same principle. Chaplin rehearsed them to death and took umpteen takes, whereas Stan preferred to do everything on first or second take. But that as much they had in common, I think. Just remember, don't oversell it. The audience are peeking at you, so you don't have to go big all the time. Don't try and go big. I think that's the one common element between them, I think.
Yeah.
But certainly that business about having the confidence to ad lib from the very beginning of their talkies, and with this fluidity, is remarkable when you consider how many people were incredibly stilted and didn't know quite what they were doing in front of the microphones, whereas they just took to it naturally. And they were very unusual in that regard, and very fortunate too in having that facility. But there weren't too many people like that.
Yeah.
Well, also, they say, well, among the great silent comedians, Laurel and Hardy made the transition to sound more easily than did Chaplin or Keaton or Lloyd. Well, the thing is, being a team, each had the other to talk to.
Yeah,
and
there was some point to it.
there were more reasons for speech in their films, whereas Chaplin doing the dance with the rolls is not going to have any reason to talk.
Who's Buster Keaton going to talk
or
to?
Lloyd working alone has no reason for dialogue, but Laurel and Hardy did.
Yeah.
Yes, this interaction. So yeah, they were fortunate in that regard, aided by the fact also that their voices were right for them.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't jar against their appearance. They were perfectly suited.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, the first time I heard Buster Keaton speak, I was a little taken aback at how deep his voice was. Now I think it's perfect. I think it works with the flat hat and the sober demeanor. So now I think it's the perfect voice. But at first, that was not the voice I was anticipating.
Yeah.
And you wonder how many people thought the same when he first appeared in talkies.
Yeah.
It may have been jarring for a lot of audiences.
Or to hear Chaplin and his rather upper crust, despite his impoverished beginnings, he had a rather upper crust sounding English voice.
It's a slight
attained, I'm sure, over years of listening to people in better economic straits than he was.
Yeah. He did polish up the accent, but it's a bit of a con because I'm from the same part of London as he was, pretty close at any rate. And I reckon when he's speaking as himself in interviews and that sort of thing, I recognize certain vowel sounds and cadences and realize that, yes, he'd probably firmed up the consonants, but the vowel sounds were still there. And I recognize essentially South London in there. He didn't become quite as poshed up as people think he did, but he presented very much a good illusion of having done so.
Well, the irony of Chaplin is that he resisted making talking films until 1940, but once he started talking, you couldn't get him to stop. Limelight, okay, we don't need a third speech about how Terry needs to get out of bed, and please. I don't in the 42 Gold Rush, I don't need you to tell me that Charlie's walking down the road. I can see that he's walking down the road. Too much narration. Stop.
Well, here's another nice mess you've gotten me into.
Right, gents, I'm going to just go around and bring this back to Men of War. I'm going to do not apologize. It's absolutely perfect. But I just want to get everybody's take. I'm going to give you a chance to each of you just have a little think about, how much do you enjoy Men of War? What do you enjoy about Men of War? What do you not enjoy about it? Because I know some people. I always thought it was a classic and one of the top Laurel and Hardy films. And then I started to see it slightly differently and get different opinions coming in. So I'll be really interested to hear what your thoughts on it. Don't have to go overboard. If somebody's already mentioned what, you don't have to repeat what's already been said. But I just want to give you guys a chance just to have your say. So I'm going to go around in the order that I can see on my screen. So I'm going to start with Bob. If you can tell us what you think.
I'll be quick. It's great. What I enjoy most about it now is the context of where it appeared in their evolution.
Yeah.
For a lot of it was, to me, sort of one of their first real talkies. And just to enjoy that aspect of them. I mean, it's a brilliant, wonderful film, and I love to hear them talk in it.
Yes.
The end.
Lovely. Thank you. Short and sweet. Like that.
This is great, Patrick. This is really great. Thank you for this.
Oh, no, to be daft. It's an absolute pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you for humoring me and coming on. No, that's lovely. And to think it is only the third talkie is just phenomenal. I mean, it's third time lucky, really, isn't it? They went overboard on the first one. Too little dialogue in the second one, and the third one I think was just perfect. And we're just going back to the subject of the dialogue in Men of War specifically. I would love to know who actually came up, because those are such clever uses of dialogue. The soda stuff and the cross purposes with the bloomers. It's really clever stuff, and I'd love to know who came up with that so early on in the talk.
Sometimes whether Stan got it from the musical.
Yeah.
He dressed for Eton. I haven't eaten.
Yeah.
Sure, that was a musical sketch that he got that back in the day. So I'm sure that came from.
Yeah. We know about the Weber and Fields drinking skit record, so that was sort of a vaudeville gene. But there are production stills which show that Beanie Walker was out there on location with them, so he may have contributed a line or two during the filming.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, Adrian, let's go with you, sir.
Okay, well, I mean, seeing this in a chronology with Unaccustomed as We Are and Birthmarks beforehand, to me, this really stands out. I mean, it's so much more polished. Unaccustomed as We Are kind of feels almost experimental to me, like they're trying to see what they could do with sound.
Yeah.
Birthmarks opening sequence is great, but I'm sorry that the birth scene just goes on too long for me. But Men of War's got a perfect balance. It's got nice bits of dialogue. It's well timed. The editing might be a bit clumsy, but it just works as a film for me. And the other brilliant thing about it is the setting of it. It just looks so idyllic, and it's kind of soft focused, and it's just much more pleasant film to watch. The little sequences in there, the soda sequence, absolutely great. The thing which I don't like so much is the boat sequence at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's for technical reasons. For me, that just doesn't work quite so well. The sound kind of seems a bit distant, and it just doesn't work for me. But the rest of it, the first two sequences, absolute Laurel and Hardy gold, brilliant, really good.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about the technical difficulties. I mean, I was just going to say about, you think, again, for the third talkie, they go out on location in a park on the water. Just, I mean, brave, I think is.
Yeah, I mean, the boat sequence is a brave one for them to film. If you think about the technicalities of that, they're on a boat. They must have had the microphone on it like a huge, long boom. So they're choosing to do something which is quite adventurous, which you've kind of got to respect in itself.
Yeah.
But for me, that sequence kind of just doesn't work as well as some of the other tit for tat sequences.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like an anticlimax to the film for me.
Yeah.
Whereas the beginning, the first sequences in the film are just great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But overall, it's so much more polished than their previous efforts and sound films, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think am I right in thinking the camera crew were perched on a little island in the middle of the lake? Have I got that right? I'm sure Richard told me that there's a little island in the middle of the lake where the camera crew was stationed, and obviously the microphone boom was atop the big red bus, the big sound bus, Al Marigas' bus. Yeah, it would have been fascinating to watch the filming of that one. Let's go for Brad.
Well, I agree as far as that final segment goes. I mean, it's got its moments, but no, I don't expect people to act with much logic in a Laurel and Hardy comedy. But climbing onto a boat that is already overloaded is not the wisest thing to do. But there's also in an earlier scene, I watched it in its entirety an hour before we started this, and I noticed something that I hadn't noticed before. We're used to the Oliver Hardy looks at the camera, usually exasperation, but in the segment at the lunch counter, after he finds out that the price is higher than he thought, and he passes the bill to Stan, just as he leaves with the girls, there's a momentary look into the camera where he's got this very smug "I got him" moment. I never noticed that before.
Yeah. I'm glad you
Come
mentioned
girls,
that, because I left that out of the, unfortunately, out of my edit. I left that bit out just because I couldn't squeeze it in. But that is a really, I don't want to say it's unique, but that one look says so much, because usually it's just a little glance or a little sigh, but this says, it kind of says, what the hell's going to happen now? Let's wait for this I'm out of, there's so much in that one glance is beautiful.
It's like, now, I got him is what I read from it.
We know
that he goes and wins the jackpot.
We know that routine almost exclusively from Men of War, but we forget that they had done it earlier in Should Married Men Go Home?
Yes. Yeah.
The silent. Now that is much more readily available, it would be interesting to go back and look at that and compare what is similar and what is different to the Men of War version of it. I mean, interesting that it's essentially a dialogue scene done in a silent movie.
Yeah, that's right.
But still, they still managed to make it work in Should Married Men Go Home.
Yeah, that's right.
They were moving more and more towards that. If you look at Wrong Again,
yes,
like a talkie with the sound off.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, there's a scene where Ollie is doing explaining the twisting ginger, which, by the way, I saw Hal Roach do. I sat right next to him in his study in January of 1981, and we were talking about the genesis of stories, and he said, well, a lot of times the things that were dramatic, if you just put a little spin on it, it would be funny. So You know what I mean? And he still said, you know what I mean, all the time, except he'd said it so many times that now it had coalesced into one word. So now it's, you know what I mean? And I remember I got to meet George Marshall a few months before he died. And he said, yeah, Roach would come into the office and he'd say, got a gag for Laurel and Hardy. You know what I mean? They come in here, they go in that, and you know what I mean? And then we'd look at each other after he left. We said, do you know what he means? We didn't know what he meant. So
you do Hal Roach very well, by the way.
It's very good.
Really got him.
I just before I did this, I signed up for a course which will help me actually commercialize my long career as a voice actor. I've been doing comedy voices for 40 years on radio, but I've never gotten paid for it. It's always been college radio. But I do 60 character voices on a show called the Sunset Review.
Wow.
So I do old character voices. And I do a little kid called Billy Fraternally, and I do all sorts of voices. I do accents. I'm blessed with a very middle of the road voice, so I can do up, down, old, young, and it's about time I got some money for it.
Yeah. Oh, that's ace. I love that. That's brilliant.
Can you do Stan and Babe?
Well, I certainly can. I tried to do Stan a little bit when I was younger and thinner. I did a pretty good Stanley. When I was thin, I did a very good Stan. Now, the last convention I was at, unfortunately, I did a very good Ollie. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? A man of your supposed intelligence acting like an empty-headed idiot. It's more... Laurel and Hardy, the comedy is the spaces in between the lines. You know, it's if there is a hallmark of Hal Roach movies, it's reaction shots. And Roach said this too. He said, you know, you do the gag, but then you cut to Stan having just upended Ollie or whatever he did, and you get his reaction. You cut to Ollie and he does his reaction, and you cut back to Stan for another reaction. He said, so you could get 3 laughs on top of the first gag by doing the reaction shots. And you see that again and again in Hal Roach movies. And unfortunately, I saw a play about 10 years ago just called Laurel and Hardy. And the 2 guys who did it, I don't think had ever seen Laurel and Hardy because they were playing it more like Gomer Pyle. Do you know that TV show? He was a country bumpkin, and then Jackie Gleason as Ralph Cramden on The Honeymooners. That's what they were playing Ollie like. They did the soda routine from Men of War, but they raced through it as if it were Who's on First. Oh, no. And it killed me because that's another thing to look at in that sequence is how little dialogue there is in a dialogue sequence and how much of it is conveyed in between the lines. And that's really where Laurel and Hardy's comedy is. It's in the reactions and the gestures and the looks to the camera and the deliberateness with which they do everything. You know, and I mean things like, you know, that's a good idea, and it certainly is. They're so sure that what they're going to do is going to be finally the successful venture, and of course it never turns out to be. But that, you know, that's a great scene to see the comedy in between the lines. And these guys didn't see it.
That's back to the advantages of them being 2 of them, of course, because you've had the opportunity for this bouncing to and fro, which the solo comedian doesn't have.
And you see that even in The Lucky Dog. You know, the scene where they're sitting together and Babe is trying to get the pistol to go. And I mean, they have this rapport right from the first time they met. It's amazing. They had an intuitive way of fitting together as performers, of anticipating each other's reactions. And, you know, even in that film, and you certainly see it in Duck Soup, which is their second meeting together. Just phenomenal.
Which just makes it so much more incredible. It took them so long to actually think, let's put these 2 together.
You'd think, and there were publicity blurbs in the trade papers about Laurel and Hardy new comedy team in Duck Soup. So why was that not pounced upon?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got one final about Men of War. I know that there's only one official sequel in the Laurel and Hardy canon, but I like to think that Men of War is a sequel to 2 Tars.
Oh,
It's two sailors in the city picking up two girls.
Yeah. 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 That's right.
and then you show Our Relations.
Yeah.
Where they're two sailors picking up Alice and Lily.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Alice. My mother's name was Alice.
Your mother's name wasn't Alice.
That was her second name on my father's side.
I don't know if you can fit in any old
that
port.
was Two Tars 3.
Yeah. In the old port, not quite so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's great.
Right.
I'm going to move to John. John, what do you think?
Well, everybody else has jumped in earlier. The three sections of the film and how they prefer, the first two sequences with the underwear, because we say knickers. I think Americans might think that's something else. And then we get to the soda fountain, which I think is obviously the bit of the film that, for me, it pivots around. You did cut out the win on the machine.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, because then one of the things I noticed when I watched it again was that it's actually Ollie that carries all the goodies. It's like he's taken the money off Stan.
Yeah.
And he's got the goodies to give to the lady.
Yeah.
And I know this because I've read the books that Randy and people have put out. Things like it's the first time you hear Doe and Charlie Hall's speaking voice. Still don't understand why he's rowing backwards on the lake. But I think this is the film where me and my friends can kind of link together with this film. They might not be as familiar with it, but the dialogue, soda. If I go out for a drink with friends, we'll always quote that when we go.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure other people. So, a quick question, which is probably, it might seem quite trivial, but with Stan, I always notice when he turns to look at Ollie, he looks above his head, almost like he's talking.
Yes,
it does.
Yes, he looks at his forehead, so to make himself look shorter.
Oh, right.
He looked at Ollie's forehead. That's right. You see that in Helpmates too during the scene when Ollie is trying to enlist his help cleaning up the house. Look at Stan as he looks at Ollie, and he's looking at the forehead. The other thing that impressionists never get is that everything that goes through the Stan Laurel character's brain is expressed in his eyebrows.
Yes. Yeah.
He has the most expressive eyebrows of any actor in history, and most people don't catch that. But everything that goes through his head is in the eyebrows.
Yes.
Yeah.
A really interesting point.
The other thing they always get wrong, they always think that Stan's face in repose is a grimace. It's not, it's blank, except maybe the eyebrows.
Yeah.
But they always insist on doing this awful face even when he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
It must be nuts.
And they forget that the tie is supposed to be a little off kilter.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
As indeed is he, of course.
Yes.
Brilliant. That's great. I'm going to go Steve.
Well, like Brad, I also watched this before we started recording, and a couple of things stuck out to me. I love the lady taking her laundry for a walk in the park at the very beginning. Because who of us on a Sunday haven't grabbed the kids and taken their laundry to the park to set up a gag?
You couldn't afford a dog.
Look at that scene. It just suddenly jumps out by itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's haunted. And then when you mentioned the slot machine, I love the character work they do, where clearly Finn's character has set up the slot machine to be rigged because he's so surprised that Stan got any money out of it. He's like, oh, okay, good. And then he's so shocked, you have to be paying attention, but clearly he's kind of a crook. And I love that. And it looks to me at the end that they told Finn, I think he had the job of helping sink the boat. Because he's climbing the back, you can see him sort of forcibly pushing down.
Yeah.
I think they said, by the way, get that thing into the water in the shot. And then we mentioned them being sailors. Other than I love a soldier and constantly referring to Stan as general, there really was no point in them being sailors. They could have been in their normal outfits.
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, I suppose the thing is they should be excellent on the water. and they're not.
And also, yes, their being sailors makes it doubly ironic when they don't know how to row the canoe.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, and I would echo what everyone else said. It's, the first part is just, soda, along with saying bye, like in A Perfect Day. It plays in your brain.
Yeah. They also look very good in the white uniforms. And this reminds me of a small sideline. When I first saw the King of Jazz, the Paul Whiteman movie, there is a scene where the Whiteman boys, including Whiteman himself, are in those white Navy uniforms. And you've got Whiteman there, who turns to the camera. He looks just like Ollie in Men of War.
Yeah.
I know the resemblance between the two was noted, hence that gag in Below Zero about Mr. Whiteman.
That's
Mr.
right.
Whiteman.
That's right.
Ollie's sailor suit just came up for auction.
Did it?
Yes, there was a big auction. It was, I'm trying to think of the gentleman, Cliff Sawyer was his name. And he was to put on the International Sons Convention for 2020, but unfortunately COVID put the kibosh on that, and then he passed away. But he had this remarkable Laurel and Hardy collection, and look for it online because there are photographs galore of everything that he had. And one of the things was Ollie's suit from Men of War.
Wow.
And I think the auction is over, but I don't imagine that everything's sold. So there are probably things that you can still get from it. So just snoop around on the internet, Cliff Sawyer, Laurel Hardy. It'll probably come up.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's remarkable stuff.
Has anybody got the panties? That's what I would have known.
You would.
They still smell like gasoline.
Yes, but it's only 2 stars. Not so bad.
Just a quick question for the North Americans amongst you. Do you find the sort of the bloomers gag funny, that kind of a knickers gag? Because me and Glenn were talking about this, I think, before.
Yeah.
And we find that kind of thing funny as British sense of humor.
Oh,
is that the kind of thing that you guys find funny as well, or no?
I think it translates.
Yeah. Oh, sure. It's done innocently. There's nothing really, salacious about it.
Yeah.
Even though it's a woman's undergarments, but they're. He says, "I'll bet you miss them," and of course, it's a misunderstanding. No, I think it's very funny.
Yeah,
and he makes it funny by playing like he's a little kid.
Yeah, I don't think that would have had any problem, even had that been made in 1934. Once the Hayes office was in charge with the production code, I don't think that would have had any problem with the PCA people.
The guy on the bike is from the Hayes office, right?
Who's that?
The guy on the bike is from the Hayes office, right?
naughty
as he drives by.
Oh, naughty. That is a guy named Pete Gordon, and he actually had an Italian name, and he was a good friend of Stan Laurel's and actually lived with Stan Laurel for a while Stan was between wives.
Yeah.
He was flipping wise.
Patrick, didn't we discuss the time I saw that on TV when I was at school?
Yes.
Is it worth repeating now?
Yeah, well, unless everybody's familiar with the story. I don't know if anyone's listened to the podcast recently, but it is. Go on, you might as well, Glenn, because it is a good one.
Well, it was shown on BBC television for the first time in 1972. Once David Wyatt had made it showable with the new soundtrack, because before they wouldn't show it because of the poor audio, but it was shown. And the day afterwards, I was at school. And my interest in Laurel and Hardy was widely known. And one of the other kids said he'd seen it. And I said, "Oh, what do you make of it?" He said, "Pathetic. I thought it was pathetic," he said. And I wondered what he meant. And I said, "Well, don't forget, this is 1929. It was only the third talkie. There were technical problems. There were problems with pacing. They were reinvented. Very early talkies are clumsy." And he said, "Oh, it wasn't that. I just thought it was pathetic." But incidentally, it was like he was blaming me for this movie.
Yeah.
How dare you introduce me to them?
Yeah, but he would not be drawn as to why he dismissed it as pathetic. And it was years and years later that I realized what it was about. He was offended by the panties gag. This was somebody whom I know to have been a very strong religious persuasion. That's what it was about. He wouldn't tell me, but that's what he meant. But so some people, I guess, were offended by it, but I hope not the majority.
Yeah.
I didn't find anything like that in the trade papers. You know, the Motion Picture Herald had a wonderful segment called "What the Picture Did for Me," in which small town theater owners would write a paragraph of how their patrons reacted to the film, and it's fascinating because you're getting audience reaction from the time of the film. And I don't recall anything like that for Men of War, but I do recall somebody just detested We Fall Down. They thought that was the most salacious, most disgusting, filthiest thing ever committed to film, and burn it because it's the devil's work and blah, blah, blah. And of course, there was somebody else who thought, you know, this was hilarious. Our patrons loved it. Bring us more. So, you know, there were a wide range of, but that was the only one where I can remember somebody really being offended by a Laurel and Hardy film. Was We Fall Down.
I found one for habeas corpus. I think I said this in the episode. Somebody they were disgusted. How can you make comedy in a graveyard? That is disgusting. That should be sacrosanct. It should be, you know. they were
corpus. That's how.
Okay, go see Do Detectives Think, or go see The Three Stooges and Three Pests in a Mess, or many other comedy films, I'm sure.
No, they weren't having it. They weren't having it.
No, they just didn't dig it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, we'll go with Nick.
Yeah, I agree completely with what Adrian said earlier. Almost word for word agree with him, and I also agree with what I think it was Brad who also made the point about you know, the looking, the Oliver Hardy looking away thing. You know, I would not put it in one of my top 10 Laurel and Hardy shorts. But given when it appeared, and given that it was their third talkie, I think it's a magnificent achievement. But you know, when from the perspective of looking back almost 100 years now, you're looking back at the canon of their work. I wouldn't put it as anywhere near the top of my favorites, but I think the soda sequence is certainly one of the funniest sequences they produced. I do think the boats sequence at the end drags a bit. It's not very compelling. But I do now see something which I hadn't even thought of before, and that's the humor of them being sailors, but being unable to actually navigate themselves on the lake. You know, that never ever dawned on me. And I've seen that film so many times.
There we go. Well, you see, this meeting's done you a service.
Yeah, thank you. But that's the beauty. Isn't that the beauty, though, of Laurel and Hardy? Because you can watch these films 100 times, and I must have seen that film 100 times, and it never dawned on me. And I'm sure if I saw another film tomorrow, which I've seen 100 times, and we have another one of these excellent sessions, again, there'll be something that I've never noticed before, which is picked. And that's why I like your podcast so much as well, because it does bring my attention to bits of these films which you just miss, because there is so much within them, I think.
We are lucky here that we have Laurel and Hardy on every weeknight and every Saturday morning.
You're very lucky.
They're on all the time. So they show. It's a show called Comedy Classics, and they show three Stooges shorts, 2 Our Gang, and 2 Laurel and Hardy. And for a while, they were showing 4 Laurel and Hardy, and I wrote to the station manager, and I said, you realize you only have 50 films in the package, whereas you have 193 Stooges shorts. Maybe you should parcel out the Laurel and Hardys a little more gradually. So they have cut back, and they're not going to run through the package in 2.5 weeks as they would have. But anyway, what I try to do now is I try to look at whoever's not talking.
Yes,
and,
I'll do that.
You will see things that even though you've seen this film 50 times, you never noticed before.
Yeah.
So now that's what I try to do, because most of these films I can recite as they're doing it. I can say all the dialogue right along with them because I know them so well. But there's still things hidden.
Yeah.
They're hiding in plain sight. And if you look at actors who are not the ones who are the dominant one in that moment, you will see new things.
Yeah, that's a good point. In fact, in that very film, this last time I watched it, if you watch the 2 ladies in the boat, Anne and Gloria, whilst the fight's going on, they are delightful. Because I mean, they're quite irritating in some of the scenes with the and all that kind of stuff.
Shrieky laughter.
Yeah, but just I mean, it's very shrieky in the boat. But I just love the little performances in the boat. Just next time you watch it, just watch those two, because of course all the action and the attention is on the fight. But just look at those two; they're brilliant. They really, especially Anne, is really good.
Anne keeps turning to Gloria and pointing, like, look at what they're doing.
Yeah, that's right. And clapping. Oh, this is so good. And then when Charlie Hall does something, aren't you ashamed of yourself? And then Ollie will go, well done, well done. He'll shoot you and all. Oh, just brilliant. They're really good.
Oh, look at them fighting.
I noticed that too. I noticed that too, and it's funny because they've just met these men, 20 minutes before maybe? Yes. And they're totally on their side. Right. And the same thing happens in Two Tires, I should point out.
Yes, that's right.
Good observation.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Okay, we'll go with Tony. Put your microphone on, Tony. There we go. Good.
It's on. Yes. I'm highly offended by the undergarment sequence at the beginning. No. It's one of those ones that I like. It's quite quotable, isn't it? Like the naughty, don't be a piker. Considering it's their third sound one, there's some classic little liners in there. So I really, really like it. I agree with what people are saying. The end bit's a bit, in the boat. It's a little bit formulaic of, let's have another sort of bun fight type thing. But overall, I can dismiss that because I do enjoy it. If it's on, I'll think, yes, men are like cozy.
Yeah. Excellent. I love that. And I agree with the boating part as well. I think it is a letdown. I think it lets because the film up to that point has been so good, and it just really peters out. And I get that with things like Their Purple Moment as well, when it descends into that little bit of a food fight in the kitchen. Yeah. I think the original ending would have been better with Kennedy and the dwarves and all that. But there we go. Russ, I'm going to hand over to you. What do you think of it?
Well, I love the film. It's someone saying not the favorite, but it's one of my favorite films. And Randy, I cannot wait till I get that print on my machine. Look at it.
You will be absolutely just astonished. The composition of every shot is so much better when you have another quarter of the picture. I mean, not just the left side, but also top and bottom.
Let me just say this. Hog Wild is my favorite film of all time. Okay, won't go into the reason. My favorite film. I think a lot of my favorite films are shot outside. I don't know why, but to have this film fresh and new, I cannot wait for that. I have to agree with everything that everyone said. I love it. I love the little moments, the little play off between each other. But yeah, I'm just, and I've been there 3 times, and unlike Bob, who's been there every day of his life, I've only been 3 times. But I love the place, and as you're right, it's a little scary. I remember there were yappy dogs. There was hundreds of little yappy dogs. I remember thinking, I don't think I want to meet with these people. But so it was interesting. But I love the film. What else I want to say? I've forgotten. I'm looking forward to receiving it.
Here, there were all these school kids, and they're almost all of Hispanic origin.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
When they were filming, so then as now, it was a largely Hispanic area, but you see how many people there were. And let's see, there's another shot here, which this astonished me when I saw it the first time. Here are 2 photos from where they're shooting on location, and you can see there's all these people on the bank there watching them. And then there's the other shot with Beanie Walker and Lewis Foster, and you see how they brought all these big lights, even though they're shooting in bright daylight, they still brought in all these gigantic Klieg lights. They did that also for Toad in the Hole. And that surprised me that they didn't just have reflectors at bouncing sunlight. Because when I was a student filmmaker, that's what we did. We got a big sheet of very sturdy cardboard, and we put aluminum foil on it with the dull side facing out, and we would just bounce the sun into wherever the shadows were. Right. But no, they brought in generators and electric power that they had to supply on the trucks, and shooting on location was a big deal. It was far more difficult than shooting in the studio.
There's one shot which fascinates me when they're on the boat. You see the camera must be right in front of Ollie because it shows a close-up. How on earth would they do that? How would they actually get? I mean, I guess would they just have a silent camera on the boat? because they couldn't have got all that equipment onto the boat, could they?
Well, they did have different lenses that would be, different focal lengths or whatever. So if you wanted a close-up shot, they had the lens turret, and there's like 3 different lenses on it. So this is for your long shots, this is for your medium, and this is for your close-up. So they could have gotten a closer shot from a fair distance, I think.
Well, the camera must have been on the boat, because it's when the boat's spinning round and round, you actually see a close-up of him with the background spinning past.
On the magazine.
So that must have been quite difficult.
They also had a thing for that particular shot. Yeah, the one I know which one you mean, where they're actually in the boat filming, right? And they're going around and around as a close shot of Ollie, and you see in the background things are moving. That's probably done with what they called an IMO camera, which was a very small camera. It held about 100 feet of film, so about 1 minute and 10 seconds. And silent footage, but they, when they're editing, they can just bring in the soundtrack over it. But they do that every once in a while. There's the shots in with Love and Hisses where they're supposed to be naked, and they have very, very close shots. Those are done with an IMO camera. You can tell that they're handheld. So that was something that you used when you could not get a camera in close enough, or you were in very tight quarters. You went to your little IMO camera because it was only about that big.
Yeah.
So that's probably
Sugar
how
Daddy's
shot
has it, I
that
think,
one.
doesn't it? I think Sugar Daddy's has it at the fairground as well.
Oh yeah, when they're going down the shoot the shoots.
Yeah.
You can tell that's a handheld shot. Yeah.
And they follow Noah Young through the dance floor as well, that kind of stuff. Russ, you were trying to shout something there.
Yes, I'm sorry.
On the magazine, if you could show the image,
yes,
we did a graphic of where the camera was on the lake.
Yes. All
I wanted was answer your question. If you can see on here, there's on 3, and 5 and 6. If you go to the 5 and 6 to the left, Patrick. So if you shows shot. So you can see that you can see from that graphic from the aerial shot where the camera was, where they were shooting. So it's quite interesting. So yeah.
There we go.
Very good.
Which is from, of course, the issue 2. This issue 2 of the magazine, which will be available on eBay if you don't have it already. They're putting them all up on eBay shortly. Isn't that right, Russ?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so to finish off, I love the film, and that's so wonderful that you've done such great work, both you and Glenn. So thank you.
Wonderful. I was gonna ask about location. Russ, you've mentioned you've been 3 times. Has anybody else been to Allenbeck Park amongst us? Bob, paint us a picture, Bob. Paint us a bit. Let us take us there.
The one slight modification I'd say is don't be worried if you see Spanish people. Let's not get political, but let's not worry. It's a fine park during the day. If you walk around it, you can recreate the angles. Almost all of it that I think from the film is still there and recognizable. And it's a fine place to visit when you come to Culver City or LA. I'm glad to take any of you there.
Oh, bless you. Are the bridges?
You can still see the bones of it all.
Yeah, the bridges are not there, but you can see the bits where the bridges were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the boating where the boats were kept, those sheds, they've gone, have they?
Yeah, there's a concrete base where that was.
Okay.
I've got a question for Bob.
Yeah, go for it, Brad.
Have you walked up the music box steps?
Yes, not recently, but they're there and they're fine. And for all the things that have disappeared, like the Perfect Day House, or Big Business House, I'm sorry, there are still many, many things when you guys come to LA.
We should stress that the Big Business House that disappeared was the first one, the duplex.
Yeah.
So that was recent. The Finlayson house is still there and looks beautiful. And there are 3 Perfect Day houses, remember, because the one next door that Baldy Cook lives in still has that little wooden address number sign there. It's still there. And also the house across the street where Harry Bernard and Gloria Woods say goodbye. That's still there. That one's been modified a bit, but the main house still has that distinctive roof and looks great.
Much to see still.
Yep.
I feel lucky that I went. It was 91, 92. I think I was there. It was County Hospital, the old City Hall was just there. It was empty, and I think it was due for demolition. But I feel grateful I just caught that one before it went.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They built a smaller replica of the front of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of there.
They're in spirit.
just like Hog Wild, you can go to where the parcel was, where the house was, where they were clambering up on the roof. But this amazes me. You know, the Roach people, they built a house for that film, and then they demolished it, and it was an empty parcel, and now there's a different house there. But you know that's where it was because of the distinctive chimney on the house next door. There's an outside chimney. It has a very unusual shape, and so you know that this is where the Hog Wild house was. But you know, built by the Roach people. You know, let's build a house. Okay, let's tear it down.
Yeah,
that always amazes me, especially in the silence, how impressive the interiors are. You know, for a studio that was a low budget studio making short subjects, these things are gorgeous. These the set designs and just amazing what they were able to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, folks, I'm going to draw us to a close, sadly, because I think we've done a lot there tonight in one evening. It was really, really fantastic. So thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you for organising it.
Oh,
yes,
yeah, you did it.
Yes,
this is great.
Really good.
And
really,
it was a great pleasure to talk with you all. And hi, Bob, again, and God bless
Nice to see you.
and all of you, and you're wonderful people.
This was fun. What movie will we discuss next time?
Well, it's to be honest, it's up to the group. What I decided to do was if I'm not moving forward, because Russ and I are working really hard at the moment on trying to get the Laurel and Hardy Silence book finished. It's a huge piece of work. It's turning into a massive, massive book, which is going to be jaw-droppingly good.
Oh boy!
So that's, but unfortunately, because we're focusing so much time on that, the podcast is taking a little bit of a backseat because, as you know, when I do an audio essay, that's pretty much a chapter of the next book, of book 2, which is the shorts book that we're doing. So to do all the research around that takes a lot of time. So that's why I think it's They Go Boom is taking a little while to get sorted out.
all of these tangents are wonderful that we take.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They're always the best parts.
The one behind this would be Birthmarks.
Yes,
but
of course you would. Yes,
but I do have to tell you, I have had the opportunity to see Birthmarks in a great print in a theater with a responsive audience in recent years. I've seen this twice, and it flies by.
Yeah,
and people are roaring with laughter. You wouldn't believe it. You know, it's such a different experience from watching it all by yourself on television.
That's lovely.
I mean, it seems to just drag on and on, but in the movie theater with people there, it moves like you wouldn't believe. So those films really were made for a theater audience, and an experience like that proves it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we had somebody else who was on last time, Karen. She said exactly the same thing. It came up in conversation. She said she was at a screening on a big screen, and it was fantastic. Everybody loved it. Yeah, so. That's brilliant. So if you have any suggestions, email me your thoughts of what you might like to cover next time. Russell and I, if you're interested in the Silence book, we are going to do a special podcast update about where we're up to with the book, how it's progressing, what's in it, why it's taking so long, that kind of stuff. We've done an interview with the printer who is going to do it for us, because we want to talk about the actual quality of the physical book, because it's something that's really important to us. Chris Sagan, who you will know from the podcast, he's also going to come on to that, and he's going to kind of interview us about the book. I thought that might be a nice way of getting the information out there without her just coming on and saying, this is what's happening, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to try and have a bit of a discussion about it, which should be good. So look out for that one. But thank you very much, Randy. Thank you for coming, Glenn. Thank you for coming as well. It's lovely to have the experts with us, because it's
absolutely,
it really makes such a difference. It really does.
Patrick, anytime you want me, I am in your disposal.
Before you all disappear, I just want to say, when me and Patrick wanted to put this together, this return to sort of mirror, the sort of Sons of the Desert sort of feel. And it was nice tonight to watch a film, talk about it, be a bit silly, have crazy comments. I think it's been a lovely thing to be able to feel like it's a Sons of the Desert type feeling and flavour to it online. Because it's very difficult to do, because you've got, me trying to say something and someone talking. So it's a difficult thing to do, but I think it's been fairly successful tonight, Patrick. I think it's
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, that's fantastic.
I'm glad I decided to join this month. This was fun.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Great to see you. Hopefully you'll come back again. And what I love about it is the fact that it enables absolutely anybody who has got access online to join. You know, you don't have to physically be able to get out of the house, get to a venue, get up the stairs to the meeting room above or whatever. You can just join everybody and have the experts like Glenn and Randy. I mean, you can't beat that. That's just fantastic.
No,
I love it.
Absolutely.
So, well, thank you so much for being part of it. And hopefully what I'll do is I will edit this down and put it out as another bonus podcast so that you can re-listen, you can revisit if that's okay with everybody. And it'll be an edited version, but the last one was received very well. People really enjoyed listening to it. So that's nice.
It
great.
sounded good. I listened.
It was wonderful to meet or re-meet all of you.
Absolutely.
And you too.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. Lovely to see you all. And we'll see you again soon.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.